Good evening, guys. My name is Marco Silva, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about alcoholism in the United States. When most people hear the word alcoholism, they usually think of someone that makes bad decisions or doesn't have enough self control. And I'll be honest, before researching this topic, I pretty much thought the same. And I figured that if someone really wanted to stop drinking, they would just stop. Simple as that. But the more I learned about this topic, I realized that it's much more complex than people imagine. Alcoholism affects millions of people every year, and it doesn't just affect the person who's drinking. It affects families, friendships, workplaces, and communities as well. It can cause serious health issues, financial struggles, and even the loss of innocent lives. So today I would like to kind of persuade you or convince you that alcoholism is much more than just a personal choice. It's a serious health public issue that deserves more awareness, more education, and better access to treatment. Um, a lot of people believe alcoholism is someone's complete fault. You often hear people say things like, "No one forced them to drink," or they just need more discipline. And while uh, personal responsibility does in fact matter, I don't think it's that simple. Um, According to the National Institute of on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, alcohol can actually change the way the brain functions over time. It affects areas responsible for judgment, decision making, and self control. I'd like to um, for you guys to think about that for a second. If addiction changes the parts of your brain that help you make good decisions, then telling someone to just stop drinking isn't always realistic. If you, yeah. Research also shows that genetics can play a role in addiction. Some people are at natural higher risk of addiction. Uh, on top of that, factors like stress, trauma, mental health issues, and a person's environment as well can all increase the chances of alcoholism developing. Now, I'm not really saying that most people aren't responsible for their actions. They obviously are. But what I'm saying is that alcoholism is much more complicated than simply choosing to drink. If it were only about choice, um, there wouldn't be treatment centers, counselors, rehabilitation centers, or just groups that help you recover from alcoholism. Unfortunately, when society treats alcoholism as nothing more than just a bad decision, people often feel ashamed to ask for help. Instead of receiving support, they're met with judgment. That stigma can actually make recovery even harder. Another reason we need to talk about alcoholism is because of the danger it causes. According to Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, excessive alcohol use contributes to more than 1,700,000 deaths each year in the United States. Personally, when I first saw that number, I honestly didn't realize the problem was that serious. Um, Alcohol abuse can affect nearly every organ in the body, according to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. Long-term long-term drinking increases the risk of liver disease, heart disease, stroke, and several forms of cancer. It can also weaken the immune system, making it harder for the body to fight off illnesses. The physical effects obviously are serious, but the mental and emotional effects can just be as damaging as the physical. The Mayo Clinic reports that alcoholism is often linked to depression, anxiety, memory problems, and difficulty maintaining healthy relationships. People with addiction struggle with these kinds of problems. Um, they can affect their performance at work, or stay focused in school, or just maintaining strong relationships with family and with their friends. And that's what makes alcoholism different from many other personal choices. The consequences don't stop with just the individual. Family members often suffer right along the person struggling with the addiction. Parents worry mostly about their children. Children worry about their parents. Relationships become strained, and trust can ultimately be broken. Um, Even people who never drink alcohol can still become victims of someone who's addicted. I like to for you guys to think about drunk driving. Each year, thousands of innocent people lose their lives because someone got behind the wheel after drinking. Those victims didn't exactly choose to be involved, but they still suffered the consequences. That's one of the biggest reasons I believe alcoholism should be viewed as a public health issue rather than just a private personal problem. At this point, people might still argue that alcohol is legal. Obviously, it is legal, and that people should be free to make their own choices. Yes, I agree that adults should have the freedom to make their own decisions. However, freedom doesn't mean ignoring all the consequences that could follow. We already recognize that other health issues deserve education and treatment. We don't tell someone with depression to simply get over it. It's kind of silly. We don't tell someone with a broken leg just to walk it off instead of getting the treatment that they actually need. So why should alcoholism be any different? If we know addiction affects the brain, damages health, and impacts entire families, then it makes pretty good sense that people struggling with alcoholism deserve support and treatment rather than judgment. So one thing we can do to help alcoholism is get better education. Many people underestimate the dangers of excessive drinking because they don't really fully understand or know the risk that comes with it. Schools, colleges, and communities should continue providing accurate information about alcohol abuse and addiction. Second, we need to make treatment accessible. According to Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, people who receive personal treatment and support are much more likely to achieve long-term recovery. Unfortunately, many individuals seek help because of or never seek the help they need because of the cost or limited resources, or even the fear of being judged. That could hold them back. Finally, we need to change the way we talk about alcoholism. Instead of assuming that someone is irresponsible or can't make good decisions, we should recognize that addiction is often influenced by other factors that are much deeper than most people realize. The World Health Organization emphasizes that reducing harmful alcohol use requires cooperation from families. They also require cooperation from healthcare professionals, communities, and policymakers. In other words, this isn't just a problem that a person can solve by themselves. As I want to wrap up, it's easy to look at someone struggling with alcoholism and assume they're simply just making a bad decision. But after really researching this topic, I don't think that's the whole story. Today we talked about alcoholism how alcoholism affects the brain, damages physical and mental health, and hurts families, contributes to preventable deaths, and creates problems that affect entire communities. We also discussed why education, prevention, and treatment are so important. Alcoholism is much more than just a personal choice. It's a serious public health issue that affects millions of people every year. I want you guys to keep in mind the next time you hear someone say that people struggling with alcoholism should just try harder, make better decisions, or just simply stop drinking. I hope you remember that what we discussed today, recovery is possible, obviously, but it becomes much more likely when people receive support, education, and treatment instead of blame or judgment. Thank you.